Welcome to a new video. I hope you had a great day. Today we are looking at some new r/I do work here lady stories. The first story is called My Father's Youngest Son. A few years ago I was working for my aunt in the 2 convenience stores she owns in town. It was a temporary thing that stretched 2 years and every day was the same. Punch in, work, punch out. My father was pretty well known around town for all the years he worked in automotive as a parts store manager, mechanic, parts manager, etc. One day I was behind the counter waiting on customers and someone came up to the counter. As I was scanning the items, I noticed they had a fountain drink, so I went to ring it up and I'm interrupted. I'm family, I get these for free. Family like my aunt's nieces and nephews and my aunts and uncles get drinks free from the fountain and slushies. Oh, okay. What's your relation to the owner? Mind you, I know my aunts, uncles and cousins very well, but not their kids. And I was about 20 at the time and one of the younger ones. So, of course, some cousins had kids, but the oldest wasn't even out of high school yet. The customer looks me dead in the eye. I'm Brad. That's the name of my father's youngest son. Me. I couldn't help but sit there for a couple of minutes with a look of disbelief that he just said he was me. So I decided to have some fun with it. I look over to the store manager, my cousin. Hey, does this guy look like your uncle's youngest son? She took a moment to get a good look at him. He's my uncle's youngest son? I know, right? You know what that means? You finally have a younger brother with the same name? The customer just sat for a moment with the most confused look on his face, mixed with a good amount of shock, not seeming to realize the name on my name tag in big bold letters that read Brad. I looked over to my coworker. You hear that? I have a younger brother with the same name as me. Isn't that great? That's great, but he looks a bit old to be your younger sibling. The guy looks about late 30s. I look a little older than I am, but everyone usually says 1 or 2 years older than I actually am. What are you talking about? None of us could believe this guy hasn't cocked on, so I have to look him dead in the eye and tell him, nice to meet you. My name is Brad. I point to the name tag. I'm my father's youngest son. He looked around at all of us. He clearly finally understood, so I ring up the drink, he paid and left with us still laughing. And as a bonus, his girlfriend came in a couple of days later and claimed to be my oldest sister, not knowing who I was. Spoiler alert, it was not my sister. The next story is called Russians. My coworker, who shall be known as John, loves to tell the story when the room needs a good laugh. So we work in restaurant tech support. On yet another routine call, John needs access to one of the terminals in front of the store to fix whatever the problem is. We have the ability to log out all the input and video on these terminals, which replaces the entire screen with a heavily pixelated image of a pyramid, the logo of the software we use. This has caused many bits of confusion in the past and will many times more in the future. John informs the store owner, who is safely in the office away from the evil pyramid. Hey, if one of your employees comes in complaining about an eyeball or some blue pyramid thing, that's me. Not one moment later, a man runs into the office out of breath and stammers, Boss, sir, the Russians are hacking us. The boss scoffs. Jim boy, I'm on the phone with John from the help desk. The boss then puts John on the speaker. Now, Mr. John, would you happen to be a Russian hacker? John responds with the only acceptable response. Нет, sir. In a decent Russian accent. The boss's laughter could be heard throughout our office. If you have watched the video up to this point, please leave a penguin emoji in the comment section. It really helps the channel to grow as the videos get more comments, likes and shares. Thanks for all the support and recommendations on improving my voiceover. And now, let's look at the next story. The third story is called The Parking Jerk. I used to work for a large state agency and after 5 years had become a middle manager. My office was in the state office tower downtown and parking was scarce. But middle management and up got reserved parking in the garage attached to our building. This was a great perk since it is a cold state and on days that the tower garage is full, you have to park at a private garage about a mile away and walk. One day I had to run a few errands and pulled up to the garage a little later than usual. By the time I'd gotten there, the sign on the garage said it was full, but I had a badge that let me go in anyway and drive down into my reserved spot. There was a man at the gate who was trying to get in despite the sign that it was full. When I realized he didn't have a badge, I backed up a little and honked my horn to let him know he could back up. This infuriates him. He gets out of his car, flips me off and hurls a few choice words my way. As he backs out of the spot, I pull up to the gate and he yells some more words my way about how stupid I am and that I can't read that the garage is full. I ignore him and assume he's just some guy there to have a meeting at one of the dozens or so agencies in our building. So I park my car. I get to my desk and get an email from HR that one of the upper managers was sick and that I needed to cover down on some interviews. Interviews in our agency start with a group of prospective employees working on a small project together. And then the candidates sit in front of a panel individually. I walk into the room where all of the candidates are sitting and there I see him, the parking jerk. I was in my car, so he didn't get a great look at me, but I knew exactly who he was. The candidates introduce themselves and get to work on their small project. Parking Jerk was trying to control the entire process, but they successfully completed the project as a team. The panel then asked all of the candidates to go sit in the hall while we discuss, and we would call them in individually when we were ready. Once they were all out of the room, I giddily told my coworkers about my interaction with Parking Jerk, and they can barely stop laughing. We call him in first and begin asking him basic employment questions. He is otherwise a strong candidate, but was very full of himself. The rest of the panel goes first. Finally, it's my turn. How do you react to stress? I handle it just fine. I'm a very level-headed person. Come on, everyone gets a little flustered at some point. Not me. I'm always level-headed. So you never do anything like get out of your car and yell at a stranger? He was silent. Or call them names and tell them to learn how to effing read? The blood drains from his face. Do you realize this job puts you in front of the media frequently and someone is always watching? Do you realize that if you were to work here, your actions would reflect on not just you, but they would reflect on your director, the department as a whole, and state government? Do you think that if you were in my position, you would hire someone who behaved as rudely as you did? He hangs his head in shame. I think I may not be cut out for this position. That doesn't necessarily mean you are a bad person, but you may not be ready for this job. He was deflated. I really think that this was the first time someone had held him accountable for his actions. He did not get that job, but a few years later I saw him working for another agency, and by all accounts he sounds like he had learned. The last story is called Your Vacation is Over. Quite a few years ago, I worked as a ski school supervisor at a mountain resort. One day early in the season, it's slow, so I decided to go take a run with one of my coworkers. Since I've been on my skis a lot, I opt to grab my snowboard for this particular jaunt. So I and my buddy are out and about for a couple of runs, and it's time to head back in to check for lessons. We are down off the main mountain and just cruising along a green, easy run that leads back to the base area. As I said, it's a slow day, so there's nobody around. Or so I think. I'm making regular, smooth turns on my board when out of nowhere I hear a woman from behind me screech, "Get out of the way! Get out of the way!" Before I can even flinch, I feel something hit the tail of my board. I get spun around and go down kind of hard. For a moment, the red rage lights blink in my head, but I think, okay, we're in a beginner area, she might not have had control, it was an accident. Be cool. I pull myself up off the snow and calm myself down. I look down the hill and there are two Karens standing about 50 yards downhill. Obviously, one of them was the one that hit me. Cool, they've stopped to make sure I'm okay and apologize. I slide down to them and open my mouth to check if they are okay. Before I can even get one word out of my mouth, Karen 1 starts screaming at me. "What the heck do you think you are doing? You could have hurt me. You snowboarders are a menace, you don't belong on the mountain." And on it goes. screaming at me, cursing at me, calling me all sorts of names. One important note. There are a set of rules that govern skiing, and one of them is that skiers and riders ahead of you have the right of way. Just like driving. If you hit someone from behind while skiing, you're 100% at fault. I tried to interrupt politely to tell her this, but Karen is having none of it. At this point, I'm thinking, okay, screw you, Karen. I'm tearing you a new one once you're finished yelling. I look over at my buddy for backup, and suddenly my rage-filled brain realizes something. My buddy is in full uniform. I look down. Black pants, blue and grey jacket with the resort logo on front and back, a bright shiny gold name tag that says supervisor under my name, and a radio mic clipped to my collar. Yeah, I'm in full uniform too. At this point, I'm dumbfounded. Is this woman seriously screaming and cursing at two mountain employees after she just caused a crash? What? Then I get calm and hold out my hand for her to stop. I have no idea why, but Karen stops screaming. I reach up to the radio mic and call ski patrol. I ask them to have the patrol director on duty meet me at base area. It's at this point that it finally dawns on Karen that she has messed up. She starts asking why I called patrol and what I'm going to do. I just shrug. She starts saying that she doesn't want me to follow her and to leave her alone. Again, we are almost inside of the base. There's nowhere else to go other than to follow this trail down. She realizes she's stuck and skis down with her friend. Her friend at this point looks mortified. We get to the base and the patrol director is standing there with another patroller. I give a recap of the events, including some of the graphic things she told me to do to myself and multiple family members. The patrol director rolls his eyes, then pulls out wire cutters. Karen goes wide-eyed and is like, "No! You can't take my ticket! It's a 5-day ticket! We just got here today! This is our vacation!" Tickets are over $75 per day, so we are talking like a $350 ticket this lady has on. The patrol director just shrugs and says, "Well ma'am, then you just made a very expensive mistake," and clips the ticket. At this point, my coworker and I beat a retreat back to the ski school, because we want no part of this fallout. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like. And please leave a comment with your favorite subreddit for future video ideas. Have a great day. Bye bye.